Chapter 12. Interview. Okay, in hindsight, climbing out a window while stitched in two places and landing on already stressed ankles wasn't the smartest thing Son had ever done. She hop-limped on her less injured leg into the main road and held her arm to her chest until the pain faded. Painkillers! She knew she'd forgotten something. She'd have to get some at the pharmacy. Except she didn't have money. Rats! Maybe the library would have something. It was the best place to be for now. She needed sci-fi and quiet, and Cam would be willing to listen to her if she felt the need to talk. Plus, she thought as her ankles throbbed, it was a short walk. The escaped trees and bushes of the park made for good targets to vent her aggression on, which was a bonus. The library had never looked more welcoming. The AC inside felt incredible, and the sight of Cam behind the help desk almost made her cry. It was silly, but he had become an ally over the past few months. The only reason he wasn't a friend was because he was too old for that. Regardless, she needed a friendly face. "Hi, Cam," she said as she limped past. "Hi, Sana." He looked up to greet her, then did a double take. "Holy crap! Are you okay?" She forced her smile to contain more cheer than relief. "Twisted my ankle earlier and had a fight with Mom and Dad. Tangentially related. I'm all right, though." Her sleeves and skirt were long enough to hide her stitches. "You look like you've gone 5 rounds of the tree and lost every one. Are you sure you should be here and not resting?" "I took a nap earlier." She shrugged. "If I sleep anymore, Mom'll diagnose me with a coma. Plus, I don't want to be at home right now." Cam got it. "Do you have your phone? Is it on?" When she nodded, he pulled out a cart full of books. "Care to help me reshelve these?" he asked. "There are leftover Rice Krispie treats and juice boxes from today's story corner in it for you." What had she done to deserve him? "Cam, you're an angel." They worked in companionable silence for a while. Cam took the higher shelves and Sana took the lower, and the books found their homes quickly. Soon, Cam and Sana were situated behind the help desk, snacks and books in hand. "How are you liking Fahrenheit 451? Cam asked once they had settled in. He'd recommended the book to her a week ago, even though it was more dystopia than sci-fi. She'd playfully accused him of giving her propaganda about reading more, and he'd feigned hurt at the very idea he'd use such obvious manipulations. They'd both had a good laugh about it. Sana'd taken the book. "I'm a little way into the sieve in the sand. It's good so far, though the wording's a little flowery." She hummed and took a drink while she considered her next statement. "I like Montag. I didn't think I would at first, but he's grown on me. Mildred's annoying, though. She's not trying the way Montag is." "That's the power of an arc for you. And that's the point of her character, don't you think?" "I guess." Sometimes book talks with Cam felt suspiciously like English lessons in disguise. "It's cool how she's close to being like a modern screen addict. Good science fiction does have a tendency to become more science and less fiction as time goes on. At least we don't have hounds." She shuddered. "It's not even a true AI, not like Warrend was. I don't think it can actually learn or grow. Still, it's pretty close. A clockwork monster." He smiled and drummed his fingers on the desk. "You have that one checked out right now. It's about the history of the Warren Project and where things went wrong, the team-up that took it down, and the AI ban that passed after the dust settled." Sana shrugged. "Kinda technical and dry, but I was looking into team-ups, and there aren't a lot as famous as that one. There are still conspiracies that the team or the AI exists to this day. I'm only up to the disaster itself." "You and your superhero obsession. Not the weirdest thing I've seen a teenager interested in. Not the weirdest thing I've seen you interested in, come to think of it. Glassmaking and superheroes are perfectly normal interests, thank you very much. You keep telling yourself that." She huffed. "I'm going to the bathroom. Leave my snacks alone." "You can't run from the truth," he said in a sing-song at her retreating back. It's worked so far, Sana thought, but there was a small, wry smile on her face. Her phone pinged while she was washing her hands. It was the tone she used to keep tabs on breaking news. She dried her hands and pulled up her preferred site. Right at the top, highlighted by a red banner, was a video thumbnail with the face of the man Swarm had saved. She had to watch this. The bathroom wasn't a great place, so she headed back to the help desk. Cam saw the phone and was immediately on alert. Did your parents call? No, something better. Take a look at this. Library voice, pint-sized. Right, sorry. She slid behind the desk and held the phone up. Check this out. She hit play. It was a short news clip. Breaking news, declared the announcer lady. Sterling Memorial Hospital was attacked earlier today by the recently debuted villain Prince Snow. Reports are coming in of the presence of another super's involvement in the scene, though the exact nature of that involvement has been unknown until now. We have a witness here to speak about his experiences. A little apprehension crept in. She didn't even know why she was worried. She'd done the right thing, and it was done and fixed, and she didn't care what other people thought. Except she did. Not everyone, not all the time, but she didn't want Cam, Lisa, or Jeremy to hate or be afraid of her. At least Cam seemed more interested than anything. The clip transitioned to a shot of another reporter and the man from the thumbnail. He looked okay. Better than he had a few hours ago, that was for sure. He'd cleaned up a bit, and none of his minor facial injuries looked too bad. Makeup, Sana realized. He had a polite smile that didn't reach his eyes, and his hair was still mussed. We're here with Jack Esposito, who was present when Swarm arrived on the scene. Jack, tell us what happened. Thanks, Maggie. I saw Swarm skating by on the way to the fight and ran after him. Him? I thought I could grab him and deliver him to the police or Prince Snow. He was too fast for me, and we were at the hospital before I realized how much danger I was in. Did he attack you? No, the opposite. I don't think he wants to hurt anyone. He saved my life. What happened? I chased him into the parking lot. Rubble was flying everywhere, but I pushed on. Then a boulder came at me. I started coughing, couldn't escape. Should have been turned to paste. Swarm pulled me out of the way. Did he threaten you? No. He told me to leave, but it wasn't a threat, it was a warning. Said he wanted to protect the people in the hospital. There's been speculation that Swarm is a new villain, set to follow in his predecessor's footsteps. What do you have to say about that? He snorted. Lord Static never saved anyone who wasn't a kid or he couldn't exploit. I don't know much about what makes a villain, but Swarm's not one. Not yet. Thanks, Jack. This is Maggie Benson, Channel 7 News. The video cut off there. A new super, Sana declared. Time for the super geek persona to take over. It was weird pretending to nerd out over her own alter ego. A non-destructive new super. Be careful there, Cam cautioned. I saw the video he sent to the police. Have you? She'd made it. Hard not to see it. Yep, sure did. I was a little disappointed since it seemed like he wanted to be left alone. Not exactly thrilling material. Right, so you have to ask, what changed? Why did he go to the hospital? Was it a grudge match? Did he want to protect the patients, or both? He took a bite of his snack, swallowed, and said, Use those analysis skills I've been drilling into your head. Tell me what you think. Well, she took a drink to buy time. It's hard to say. This is his first public appearance, and one rescue does not a hero make. The fact that he went out of his way to save someone is a good sign, but he is connected to Lord Static in some way. He has to be. How deep that connection goes could determine what choices he'll make in the future. Good thoughts? May I play devil's advocate? By all means. Swarm's earlier video was in response to Prince Snow's actions. If not for him, it's likely Swarm would have continued to stay hidden. He didn't respond to any of the other villains' plots, after all. His first physical action was protective. Doesn't that suggest a degree of sanity villains lack? Sana flexed her hands. He could snap at any time. It was one of her new greatest fears. She blew out of breath. It is cool to see a super's debut. I'm just not optimistic it'll go the way people think, now that we've talked it out. Calabria's got a history, and Sana had a coward's heart. People write history as much as history writes people. Don't write him off yet. Cam headed for the book drop, Sana on his heels. He might surprise you. If nothing else, you can follow his descent into madness. Nothing Swarm did could surprise Sana, and she'd rather not go crazy. All the same, the faith, however misplaced and indirect, was reassuring. Are you going to keep track of him too? He shrugged and dropped a pile of hardcovers in her arms. probably gonna be tough to avoid it. Super news is usually hot, and this is the next step in Lord Static's murder. The local sources are gonna be flooded with it. Sana made a face, and Cam chuckled. I suggest going wireless for a few days if you want to avoid the storm. No problems there. I'm grounded. He furrowed his brow. Are you sure you should be here? I left a note. Sana, Cam, it's fine. Please. If you say so. But it was obvious he didn't believe her. Kind of a moot point. The library's closing soon, he said with a head tilt towards the clock. Sana followed his indication and grimaced. 15 minutes before she'd be kicked out. Can I stay until lockup? I'll help with closing, she bargained. At Cam's skeptical look, she dialed up the puppy dog eyes. They didn't work. Not a chance, pint-sized. It's getting late, your limp's getting worse, and your parents are going to be worried sick. As he spoke, he took the books from her and arranged them on the cart. Take a snack and a water bottle for the road. Now that he'd mentioned it, Sana could feel throbbing in her stitches and ankles. Could I have a painkiller instead? I'm not giving you drugs. Take one when you get back to your place. Aw, it had been worth a shot. Why'd you have to be a responsible adult? Because I wouldn't keep an eye out for my third favorite regular if I wasn't. He gave her a gentle push towards the door. Go home, Sana. I'm only your third favorite? I'm hurt. I have a wife and a 6-year-old. You're not gonna beat them for the top spots no matter how much of the sci-fi section you chew through. Yeah, that was fair. See you around, camcorder, she said with a wave behind her. Take care, he said at the closing door. She made it home the same way she'd left. She even made it back in the window, though she did have to form scarf constructs looped around a bed leg to provide some extra support. Her scramble inside wasn't exactly dignified, and she laid flat on her back on the floor once she'd made it. The exertion had put stress on her stitches, especially the ones in her arm, and moving the limb hurt too much to handle. The pain had subsided to a dull ache by the time she felt certain she could sneak out to pop an ibuprofen without running into her parents. All the same, she grabbed the pill, a granola bar, and some water, and retreated to base as fast as she could while maintaining her stealth. After taking the painkiller and eating, she turned the bots into a blanket and went to bed. It was early, but not unreasonably so, and her need for sleep overrode everything else. She slept for 12 hours and woke up feeling like she'd been hit by a truck. Her mouth was dry and sticky, her stomach was hollow, she had to pee, and she was pretty sure every muscle in her legs and back had locked as if she'd developed rigor mortis. An experimental stretch proved the latter thought correct. After dealing with her morning routine and reforming the bots into her default bike jacket, she texted Lisa to inform her of the grounding. Lisa responded with sympathy and made plans to toss some cookies into Sana's window the next time she passed by. Sana laughed at that and promised to leave her window open in the mornings and evenings. As soon as she'd done that, letting in air that hadn't had time to pick up the day's oppressive stuffiness, a knock on the door caused her to jump. I got it, she called to whichever parent was at home right now. If she was right, it would be her mom. She peeked out the window and took a step back. 2 men were at the door. Detective Valentin was one, but she didn't recognize the other. He was tall, blonde fading to gray, and had straight white teeth. Another policeman? What were he and Detective Valentin doing here? Only one way to find out. She opened the door. Hi. Hello, Sana. May we come in? Detective Valentin had his badge open and was holding it up. The words that ran through Sana's head could not be put to print. She pasted a smile on her face. Sure, Detective. Detectives. What's up? She asked as she stepped aside. Who's your friend? Did something happen to Jeremy? Sort of. He's fine. We're here on CPD business, actually. And I am Detective Archer. A pleasure to meet you, Miss Sana. He gave her a smile and tipped his hat. Nice to meet you, too. Diplomacy. She could do diplomacy. Could I get you something to eat? Drink? Ah, the Italian bloodline strikes again. Feeding guests was diplomatic, right? No, thank you, Detective Valentin said. Are your parents home? Mom should be, I think. Why? We need to ask you some questions, and we won't do that without your mom here. Sana's hands flexed, and a little nervousness bled into her expression. Am I in trouble? Not at all, Detective Archer said. We just need to talk to you about Prince Snow's attack. Talk to her? They pointed guns at her. Swarm her. No, duh, she hadn't talked to them. But she wasn't in trouble. Were they okay with the vigilante thing? But why didn't they say they knew she was Swarm outright? How'd they figure it out? She didn't realize she was working her way into a panic spiral until Detective Archer placed a hand on her shoulder and squeezed. Hey, it's okay, he said calmly. Go get your mom, all right? We'll wait wherever you put us. The touch helped. She took a steadying breath and said, The dining room table should be good. Follow me. She led them in. Her nerves were fried, and she all but leapt out of her skin when Detective Archer asked, Are you okay? Why do you ask? You're limping. She hadn't realized. The pain had faded into the background, but once he mentioned it, she couldn't ignore it. I may or may not have climbed out a window and landed wrong yesterday. It's a little twisted, but otherwise fine. Don't worry about it. If you say so. It was clear he wasn't thrilled about leaving it alone. Fortunately, the table was close, and Sana got the detectives situated quickly. She left the room and stalled by closing her window before going to find the resident adult. Her mom was in her office, nose buried in her laptop. We've got trouble, Sana announced. If the cops aren't at the door or the house isn't burning down, assume you can handle it yourself. About that. That got her looking up. You must be kidding. Option 1. I think they know about the S thing. They want to talk to me about Prince Snow. Help? Oh boy. Her mom closed the laptop and stood. Let's get this over with. I take it we won't say anything outright until they do? They quickly hashed out a bare-bones plan and headed to the dining room. The detectives had gotten comfortable on one side of the table and pulled out notepads, and a recorder rested between them. Sana and her mom took the seats across from them. Mrs. Ritchie? Detective Valentin asked. He held out his hand. Sana's mom took it and shook it. Dr. Ritchie. Detective Valentin, right? My apologies. You're correct. This is my partner, Detective Archer. We just have a couple of questions for your daughter. Sana reached for her mom's hand, and she took it. Go ahead, Sana said. Are you all right with us recording this? Detective Archer asked. At Sana's nod, he pressed a button on the recorder. He read in the date and time, then said, This is a follow-up interview with witness Sana Lynn Ritchie regarding the attack of Prince Snow on July 8, 2025. Present are Detectives Archer and Valentin, the witness, and the witness's mother, as the witness is a minor. Miss Ritchie, can you tell us what happened prior to the arrival of the police? Follow-up? Why would they call it a follow-up when they hadn't gotten a preliminary statement? She registered the date and could have laughed with relief. They weren't talking about the attack on the hospital. They were talking about the attack where he delivered his declaration of war. They were actually interviewing her, not Swarm. They probably didn't have any idea about Swarm. Yeah, I can tell you. What do you want to know? She squeezed her mom's hand for support. Give a summary of what happened, starting from the time you realized the attack was starting and going up until the time Prince Snow left. Right, she could do that. I was coming home from the library when I heard the glass shattering. The rest of it went okay. The detectives were good listeners, and Sana made sure not to say anything too incriminating. Probably. The air raid sirens blaring in her ears and the inaudible buzzing along her back were making things a little hard. The detectives, at least, seemed sympathetic about the whole thing. Detective Valentin especially took things slow. Probably because he knew she was Jeremy's friend. It wouldn't do to scare her off. And then you let me go home, she finished. That's about it. Detective Valentin nodded and tapped his pen against his notepad. Thank you. This has been very helpful. Somehow Sana doubted it. I'm glad to be useful. Is there anything else you need? Did you notice anything unusual about Prince Snow? Any identifying physical characteristics, for example? What could she say without seeming suspicious? She thought for a moment, trying to envision both encounters. He moved his hands a lot. It seemed deliberate. He was also pretty showy. Presentation mattered to him. Anything else? Not really. I'm sorry. No need. Last question. Thank God they were getting to the end. Would you say he's more or less dangerous than Lord Static? Less powerful. That was an easy answer. He didn't pull any of Lord Static's favorite tricks out besides constructs, and the hand thing slowed him down. He seems less experienced and younger too, maybe early to mid-20s. He doesn't seem to have the skills to be in the same league as Lord Static. She thought for a second and ran her thumb along the back of her mom's hand. He might be more dangerous, though. It depends on what he wants and how driven he is. That's all for now. Thank you. End of interview. Detective Valentin clicked the recorder off. Out of curiosity, why did you separate power from danger? Guess he was lying about the last question thing. Damn it, why couldn't they leave already? Now she had to maintain a conversation without the recorder reminding her to be careful. Dad's talked to me about this. Power's just one component of danger. Lots of superheroes are powerful, but they're not especially dangerous because they have philosophies that keep their actions in check. Meanwhile, a base human with a knife and anger management issues isn't all that powerful, but is extremely dangerous. That's quite the eloquent response. Why'd he talk to you about that? Because he'd been trying to explain to her why having the bots made her powerful, but she didn't have to be dangerous, she thought. Deadly had been thrown in too. Sana planned to avoid being deadly at all costs. Admittedly, I'm parroting back a lot of what he said because it made sense to me. As for why, Dad's a retired Marine and he does security work. He's been teaching me self-defense, and we got around to talking about it when I called him dangerous. Is he? I like to think so. Then again, I like to think I'm dangerous too. The detectives gave her a once-over. She knew what they saw. A short, skinny girl with a little lean muscle and the kind of face that made her look 3 years younger than she actually was. Not dangerous by any stretch of the imagination. They couldn't see the vibrations of her jacket, nor the telltale stitches and bruises her sleeves and dress concealed. They could see her hands, though, the scars there, so she laughed her statement off and tapped her barrette. I make stained-infused glass. The steps involved include breaking glass with my bare hands and handling jewelry so hot it glows. I have to qualify as at least mildly hazardous. She knew the moment her mom realized she was about to drop her guard. Her nerves had a tendency to vanish in the face of the chance to yammer on about her passions. She stepped in to redirect the conversation. I taught her. We needed some form of mother-daughter bonding activity. CPR and first aid training didn't cut it. That left out the begging, wheedling, and safety negotiations Sana had to pull in order to be taught. Her mom hadn't been thrilled that Sana had taken an interest so young, but she'd caved in time, and Sana had slowly been given more independence. Still, she'd only been allowed to operate the soldering iron and grinder on her own in the past year. This was after 2 of being relegated to everything not involving machinery and another 6 months of supervised work. Nowadays she had free rein, but it was a long time coming. The intervention gave her the time she needed to get her thoughts back on the important matters, like getting the people who could arrest her out of her house. We're getting off topic. Is that all you needed from me? From you, yes. Dr. Ricci, were you at the hospital yesterday? I was, but I didn't see the confrontation. My focus was on evacuating patients. All right, thank you anyway. He closed his notebook and stood. Detective Archer was right behind him. We'll be in touch. Sana could tell the white lie for what it was. She smiled and stood. Tell Jeremy I say hi. Oh, you know his son? Detective Archer asked, all innocent curiosity. Hadn't she mentioned Jeremy earlier? She took out her barrette and fiddled with it in lieu of flexing her hands. We go to the same school, a couple of grades apart. Had the same lunch last year. We're friends. Do you give suncatchers to all your friends? That was Detective Valentin. She shrugged. Only good ones. Sometimes it's necklaces or earrings instead, but he picked out the one I gave him. Please go away, she thought. Her mom picked up on her discomfort, thank goodness. She stood too. Don't get her started. We'll be here all day. I'm sure you're busy. We are, Detective Valentin admitted, so we'll get out of your hair. Thank you for your cooperation. Come on, Archer. He headed for the door, and Detective Archer followed. Then they were gone.